Hey everybody, late as always, but you can certainly count on us. It's the Yard Sign. Thank you so much for watching. 7-ish on Monday night, as we always do here. Thank you so much for watching. Man, is there a lot to talk about, but I'm incredibly excited about this show. We got a special guest with us tonight. We also have a lot to talk about, not only things that happen in the news, but even kind of in our own lives. Had a little bit of excitement today, as a matter of fact. So both myself and the other individual involved will go into that in a little bit here, but we appreciate you watching the Yard Sign. Please remember you can subscribe, follow us, like us on Facebook, YouTube, where we broadcast live, Periscope as well if you happen to be on Twitter. And then if you'd like to catch an audio version of the podcast, you can do that on Google, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. And again, please not only subscribe, but leave us a review. It helps us compete with all the other podcasts out there. And as always, thank you so much for watching. We're going to change it up a little bit, only because, again, we're always trying to work on improving the show. So let's go ahead and pull up today's list of topics before we go over to the big table. Again, lots to talk about. Biden and the DNC collusion happening. Are they trying to push Bernie out? It's kind of obvious at this point, but we'll obviously pick that apart. And in addition to other issues that may be facing the Biden campaign as we come down the home stretch in the Dem primary, and Biden's what is now seeming like an inevitability as being the DNC's nominee for the presidency. Warren endorsement. She, of course, dropped out last week, but has failed or refused to give an endorsement in the presidential campaign, although has Obama given his endorsement. If you haven't seen the ads yet, they are definitely out there. And then we'll talk a little bit about the health issues concerning the two Democratic candidates. Again, very public knowledge, and I think fair game. You know, it's certainly something that should be of concern because those issues are also going to lead into and weigh heavily on who these individuals choose as their running mate, being that we're down to the final 2-3 if you, like me, like to count Tulsi Gabbard, which I always like to count Tulsi Gabbard. But let's see. Let's bring it back up. Here we go. Coronavirus, COVID-19, just continuing to do all kinds of damage around the world and hitting us hard here now in the United States, not only health-wise, but even economically. We'll pick that apart. Affordable housing, or is it housing affordability? We'll pick that apart here in Tampa Bay. Big issue regarding that, and are our local leaders kind of shooting themselves in the foot with the following topic, which is impact fees, and the school board coming after more money, and apparently this is a common practice by our new superintendent. So we'll dive into that, and of course the oil price war that started, let's say overnight, and also affecting our stock markets, affecting the global economy. At what point does this good thing for consumers end up being a bad thing for the global economy? And hopefully I've given my team enough time to get the word out about tonight's show. So we're going to go ahead and turn up the mics here. Let's see. We got 1, 2, and 3. Let's go over to the big table. What's up, fellas?
What's up?
What's going on?
Let me see him, right? There we go. All right. So, that lovable teddy bear, the familiar face who's done just about every episode, is Anibal Cabrera. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. It's been a good day.
It's been a great day.
It's been a great day.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Huge day.
Huge day.
Traveling around the state, had a good times in Tallahassee, good times in Miami, Orlando.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell us a little bit about that too.
It's been fun. It's been a good time. Been visiting every county basically, from Tampa to Tallahassee, all the way down to the Keys, and for business and for work, and just having a good time with friends and other YRs. But it's been good.
Awesome. And continuing going from left to right, our special guest for tonight is a really great friend of mine, somebody very active in the community, also serves in our Coast Guard. So thank you so much for your service, Mr. Chambers. It is Chris Chambers joining us for the first time ever, and hopefully not the last time. Well, hopefully we won't scare you off tonight, but that picture behind you certainly might do it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I don't know if I'll be returning, but I feel like the president is stalking me right now. But no, appreciate you having me on. Yeah.
Let me just tell you that this so far, that picture back there is maybe my favorite moment of this 2020 campaign cycle so far. For those of you who are not familiar with it, is actually President Trump impersonating Mini Mike Bloomberg at CPAC. And that beautiful gentleman on the far end, filling in for Mr. Jay Kaufman with all his beauty, is is Joe Simon. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. I'll do what I can.
I know those are very sexy shoes to fill.
Jake, we miss you, buddy. Back.
But we appreciate you jumping in and joining us.
You do a good job of filling in for the face.
I would say so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think he does a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Being my first time, I'm personally happy and pleased right now. So.
Well, and Joe,
night.
A lot of love in this room.
Starting off good. Okay. All
well,
right.
Joe's got the beard. You know, Jake doesn't sport the beard. Joe's got his killer beard going on.
Jake can't sport a beard.
Well,
that's
yeah,
why.
That's
Sorry,
very
Jake.
true.
It gets really
I
passionate.
definitely give you points on fashion as well. So
There we go.
Thank you, and you as well.
Oh, you're gonna make me blush.
Sir.
We just started already.
All right.
This is the start of a beautiful relationship.
I love it. All right,
Beautiful
well,
friendship.
guys, thank you again for joining us on the show. We're going to go ahead and get started. Again, we have a lot to talk about. Joe Biden. And now, I mean, what seemed like in a flash, in the matter of a week, they managed to knock off, 3, I think, of the candidates, get them all to drop their campaigns and coalesce behind Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, here towards the end of last week, came out and endorsed Biden. I mean, this is truly, if you haven't watched this before, this is truly the embodiment of the establishment and the machine at work.
I think Hillary threatened to kill them. I think
Allegedly.
Saying.
Allegedly. Come on, that's a third rail in conversation. We fully don't believe in any accusations that Hillary or her foundation have
Of course
participated in.
Hearsay.
And none of us believe in suicide. Okay, moving on.
Well, I mean, again, so to that point, you know, do we have a problem? I think because especially watching what happened during the Trump campaign for the first election in 2016, I think the Republican grassroots would have lost their minds if the RNC had intervened the way that the DNC has and basically moved everybody to get behind whoever they thought had the best chance to beat Trump in that situation, just to push him out and protect the party.
So I think this needs to be unpacked a little bit. Again, a month ago, we all thought Papa Joe was going to be gone.
Yeah.
He was frail. He was not speaking well. His sentences were not going well. He wasn't doing any rallies. He was only doing the debates. And at that time, it was like, okay, so it's more like, let's not hit him. It's kid gloves. Kamala Harris went after him. Who was the Latino, not Beto, that was running in the race?
Elena?
No, the guy. Castor? No.
Oh, Castro.
Yeah. He made comments also, and so did a few other individuals that were running against Joe Biden. And so people were more or less like, okay, let's not damage him that much. And then, especially with the whole impeachment thing, that took him out significantly. So I don't think people were expecting him to be the person that would coalesce. And then he wins Virginia. And the whole thing turns around. In 72 hours, the whole map changes. And it was fascinating to see that. However, I agree with Johnny. I think if this was on the Republican side, the world would be on grassroots would be on fire.
But that is what happened against Trump. The RNC did try to take Trump out as best they could. They hated him. Fox was not behind him. They tried to take him out. Everybody was trying to take him out, but they couldn't. So eventually they just had to accept him.
I think some similarities. I think.
Am I the only one that feels that way?
No, I think that's true. But I don't think they thought Trump was ever a contender from the beginning. Correct. And I think if you look back, the same thing with Biden, and then now you look, nobody expected Trump to be where he is now, and same thing with Biden. Look where he is, and a couple weeks ago, everybody thought he was finished. So
that is true.
I think the electability is what's really pushing the Democrats to put all of their effort behind Joe Biden, which I think is going to be a disaster. And I think
he has dementia.
I don't think he has dementia.
It's obvious.
But we were having this conversation earlier that you can definitely see that there is a deterioration of his mental stability when it comes to complete sentences, his frame when he's on stage, it looks very frail, and it's almost like we're having the same conversation we had with Hillary and her health that now we're having with Joe Biden.
Like, well, and he has good days and bad days, just like pre-dementia, like early stage dementia.
Yeah, because we all have loved ones that are older in age, and we can see that deterioration little by little, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. So I feel really bad that we're having this conversation, that it's not him in his prime 13 years ago or 20 years ago. It's him as he starts to frail a little bit. Yeah. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I'm not going to speak to his health, but he does confuse me sometimes. But I think that most of Joe Biden's credibility just comes back from the Obama presidency. You know, he's kind of on that coattail, riding that wave, and I think a lot of people are willing to kind of overlook that. They maybe feel like he's the most credible because he's been in that VP spot. So he brings that credibility with it as well, and it kind of can even
every other word out of his mouth is Obama, right? Yeah. I mean, all he does is reference his Obama years. He's been in government for 30 years, maybe longer.
No, much longer.
Much longer? How long would you say he's been in government?
I think he's probably been in government for as long as we've all been alive, honestly.
Wow.
So probably plus 30 years. I will give you that. Probably plus 30 years he's been in government. Again, he won
30 to 40 years.
He won his first state primary last 2 weeks
ago.
So
30 to 40 years he's been in government, and they're blaming everything on Trump for his 3 years, right? Yeah.
Well, probably ridiculous. 30 to 40. He became a city councilman in 1970, so that's pretty significant time. 70 is 30, 40. Yeah, 50 years then.
So
50 years he's been in government.
So we have Biden and the DNC really rallying, and I think something that didn't happen on the Republican side 4 years ago was the how quickly it happened. It happened as right before the primaries. It went against Sanders, and everyone went on board. Beto showed up in Texas. You had Pete Buttigieg pushing his support, and it was so surprising because I wasn't expecting it. They were so upset with each other during the debates. They were not nice at all, and so I was expecting that to be some kind of lingering issues, but no, they're just trying to see if they can get a cabinet position inside the White House, and I don't think any of them will become VP picks because it doesn't make any sense for Amy or Buddha or even Beto.
What about Hillary? Do you think she'll?
No, I don't think she'll.
Burn.
I don't think at all. They would make no sense. She would do it in a heartbeat because then the next heartbeat would be Joe Biden's last heartbeat.
Yeah,
so then she would become president. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's gonna happen. I would see a Kamala Harris.
Maybe. I'm hearing somebody recommended Val Demings.
Val Demings, that's a good one.
I think she'll be a strong.
Well, and oftentimes you do find that the VP pick is not anyone that you would expect.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. More often than not.
Just like Mike Pence. Who saw that coming? I didn't see that coming.
Absolutely
when
not.
Hillary chose, what was his name? Tim Kaine?
Tim Kaine.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
No, I mean, remember Sarah Palin was virtually unknown until John McCain picked her.
Sarah.
You know, it's one of these things. Look, honestly, I could easily make the argument that without a Sarah Palin, there would be no President Donald Trump.
Huh. And why is that?
I think
if you think about that, there's the Sarah Palin trail leads to Donald Trump.
It allowed for us to see that kind of off the cuff, real down to earth individual that wasn't polished, that wasn't from a political class family, and you really saw that within her.
That got the grassroots fired up too.
Yeah,
correct.
You know, because she really got everybody fired up around McCain. You know, and then of course, you know, they didn't prepare her properly. They didn't train her properly. I don't think she quite knew what she was getting herself into.
It was her accent, let's face it.
It's
it was the accent.
And there were a lot of mistakes made, but
it was the hair bun. That was a lot of hair.
Whereas McCain was the establishment guy, she really tapped into the grassroots and the Tea Party movement and a lot of the people that today you could credit with creating a President Donald Trump.
And you know what? I think it's so interesting. You just mentioned McCain, right? Think about the next guy that tried to get in, Romney.
Right.
And then now we have Trump. And now what do we think of McCain? And what do we think of Romney? Now I look back and I go, thank God they didn't get in. Thank God. Thank God we did have Obama. And thank God we now have Trump.
We needed to have, again, the pendulum had to swing a certain direction for us to get what we have now.
Yes.
And what we think we're gonna get after his next 4 years will be something completely different. I mean, Paul Ryan was the running mate, I believe, for Romney. For Romney. So like that tells you where it kind of comes out of nowhere. I wouldn't be surprised. It's gonna be someone in government. It's not gonna be, who was the lady that ran for governor in Georgia?
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams. Yep. I don't think it's going to be her. I think she doesn't have any kind of legitimacy just because Biden already has the South. He already has the South locked in when it comes to his primary. He needs someone that's going to lock in probably the Northeast or maybe the manufacturing Appalachias. So I think that's what's going to happen. But I'm really excited to see what Bernie Sanders is going to do now. He got Jesse Jackson endorsement today, which I thought was very interesting.
I did not see that coming.
So interesting. So I happen to have read the autobiography for Bernie Sanders years ago, and there's a situation that happened in like 1984 when Bernie Sanders was trying to take over the Vermont Democratic Party, where Jesse Jackson is there doing the whole Rainbow Coalition and everything else, and Bernie Sanders gets up on stage, makes a whole pitch about taking back the Democratic Party in in Vermont, goes back down to the audience, and then he gets slapped in the face by a
really?
Democrat. Yes.
Is that on video?
I don't think there was video back then. But he says it in his autobiography, and I'm like,
that's hilarious.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
That would
so
have
if
been
you think things are bad now, things were horrible back then, and that was in the Democratic Party. So I think Bernie Sanders has a huge problem with upper middle class suburban white people, and I think that's going to become.
Here we go.
What else am I supposed to say? It's upper middle class white suburban educated people.
Why gotta bring color into it?
I'm sorry. It happens. And I think that's what Bernie Sanders is having a problem with. It's a big problem that he's having. I don't think he's gonna be able to push through majority when it comes to delegate count.
I agree. And there's a divide in the DNC right now. I think Bernie Sanders has pretty much anybody under 23.
Pretty much.
All 12 of them.
All the Gen Zers. All Gen Zers and a lot of millennials.
But he proposes these plans and these policies, and I don't think they're thought through. And a lot of the younger people,
like how he'd pay for them.
And a lot of younger people, they don't think through them. It's just instant gratification.
They're free.
Yeah, free. That works. So let's go for it. So
they haven't learned that there's no such thing as free.
Well, it's also the generation that like freely took a $50,000 loan to pay for college.
You're absolutely right about that.
So I wouldn't be surprised that they don't understand the concept.
You're absolutely right about that.
All right, so over here I have been prepping a little clip. Thanks again to Christopher Kylan.
Wondering what you were doing over there.
Right?
You get so quiet.
Well, I let you guys do all the work, and I just sit here and look pretty.
That's up for information.
Christopher Kylan, again, thank you, buddy, for lining up some clips for us, and this is going to be one of them, where apparently Biden, which I think actually he did say himself, but Joe Biden apparently forgets who Barack Obama is. So let's go ahead and cut to that clip real quick.
They invaded another country and annexed a significant portion of it called Crimea. He's saying that it was my boss, it was his fault.
All right, so again, there we had Joe Biden and one of his campaign stops, and we've seen this time again. Again, he literally called himself a Biden at one point.
And, that could be a slip of the tongue. We give him credit for that. I make mistakes when I'm speaking sometimes, but the things that he's mistaking out, like Super Thursday, I could have made that mistake. But what was the other big one? What was the other big one?
He's running for Senate again.
That he's running for Senate again. That one I was like, and he didn't correct himself.
Didn't he get his wife and his sister mixed up?
Yes, he got his wife and sister mixed up, stuff like that.
To his defense, they look alike.
Well, they look alike.
Because they're white.
His wife is a thug. If you would have seen that, so in that particular moment, while they're having the closeout of the rally,
we still worked on that clip.
Two people get up and try to protest, like vegans or like I don't know, vegetarians. I don't know who was doing it.
Aren't they on the same side?
I don't know what's going on with them, but they storm the stage, and one of them gets by and like does a protest. Someone tackles her, and then the second one like actually goes to Joe Biden, and his wife like straight up like body checks her, and I'm like, wow.
So I don't know if she should be, if he wins, if she's going to be the first lady or head of the Secret Service. But,
I mean, that's a what's the phrase that all these kids use when it comes to
Secretary of Defense.
What's the phrase? The ride or die chick?
Oh yeah,
that's what it's called.
Ride or die chick. Yeah.
Wow, I don't
think they use that in a while though.
You did not sound cool saying that, by the way. You did not sound cool.
In case you were wondering,
I was enunciating too many of the syllables.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to ask my daughter what is the new term these days.
Yeah, I'm sure we're behind the times.
I don't think that's the term, but
Anibal was trying to tell me that unfortunately I kind of jumped topics here, but it's again, I think this all kind of runs together, right? Because we're talking about the Biden and the DNC kind of candidate situation there, but kind of going right into the next topic, which is Warren. So Elizabeth Warren, basically Hillary 2.0. She decides to drop out last week, kind of pretty abruptly, I would think. Normally you can see the trajectory coming, but obviously Super Tuesday, not kind to her. But it seemed to me still, didn't it seem to you guys like it was still like a little bit unexpected that she would just kind of all of a sudden just hang it up?
No, not at all. She is Sanders. She's Bernie Sanders, like, how can I say this? She's doing it on purpose to ruin his chances of becoming president. I truly think that. Like, first of all, I lost the bet to Jake because my bet was that she was gonna fall off the race on Super Tuesday, and she didn't. But then, like 2 days later, she drops out, which then ruins Jake's saying that she's going to be the nominee, which I think is ridiculous. And so she screws everyone over. So she's not making any friends whatsoever. She's not endorsing him or anyone else, which is basically an endorsement. Otherwise,
she needs time. She's a little hurt. She needs time to heal, and then hopefully she'll come out and do what's best for the DNC.
She's not gonna support Bernie Sanders. She's gonna have to support Joe Biden. No. She literally stabbed Bernie Sanders in the face during one of the debates, calling him a liar that she says that he said that women cannot be president. And that is a whole nother topic.
And she did it on television. It wasn't like the campaign originally put that out, right? They leaked that to a bunch of media outlets, but then she went ahead in the debate and literally said it to his face, catching him a bit off guard. But also, that's a really harsh accusation, especially when you're coming from the left. The other thing too here is again, I think she's very egotistical, much like Hillary. I think.
Didn't she remind you of Hillary? Like same haircut, same style, really. Only she didn't wear the dumb space suits or anything.
I think she's 20 years younger than Hillary, though.
Although
really?
I think so. Although we did get all the cheesy dancing.
For the record, Hillary, I didn't say anything bad about you. For the record,
I didn't say it.
Although we did get all the horrible dancing from Warren, which
I didn't like the way she talked either.
No, again, she's just, people are like, the country's not ready to elect a woman. No, we want to elect a woman that's likable and that also knows her stuff.
And not
is
just
also,
because she's a woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's the problem is that the feminist movement of today wants to give women these positions, these roles, simply for being a woman.
If a better woman had run, then they would have had a better shot.
Absolutely. Well, they had a better woman.
They would have had a better shot at Trump.
I think a better woman is running now.
They would have had a better shot at Trump, I think. If a better woman was running, they would have had a shot.
And we've talked about this before. If the Democrats would have given us someone to vote for and that wasn't crazy, then I think a lot more Republicans would be more than willing to think about voting for someone else. Andrew Yang was someone.
You mean somebody that didn't claim to be Native American when they clearly, obviously, were not?
That didn't know how to drink a beer in front of a camera. It was bad.
Well, and
it was, I think it was a Corona, honestly.
Oh, really?
I would love to see.
We should
we
look
need
back
to do the
at
research.
That.
We do. Research.
Okay, I'm making a note.
Too soon.
Yeah, maybe.
I just think Elizabeth Warren was just. I don't ever think she had a chance. Just too progressive, and I'm surprised she lasted that long. But she did accomplish. I'd say dooming Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, she got 60. Was it 60 delegates?
She has 57 delegates.
57.
We're gonna go over the delegate count.
And I think she played a part in Mayor Bloomberg's demise as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, she took him out.
Yeah.
She
So-
Skyped,
she did.
Skyped him.
I mean, scalped.
Scalped him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
Well,
was representing her tribe during that debate.
well, and along,
Nice.
Hillary was sitting at home
Like how you brought
clapping.
that back.
well, and while everybody's waiting for, while everybody's waiting for the Elizabeth Warren endorsement, we all got the endorsement announcement over the weekend that nobody wanted, which was Jesse Jackson endorsing Bernie Sanders. And I mean, is it even relevant these days? I mean, the surprise here is that Jesse's going anti-establishment, right? That's obviously the big surprise. But does it even matter anymore? Does it carry any weight?
It is interesting.
I'm
that he
not
went
surprised.
against the establishment. That's what I'm shocked about.
No, I'm not surprised at all that Jesse Jackson did something like that.
No?
At all, I'm not surprised. The
Well,
man
he used
is-
to support Trump, right? I mean, they used to be buddies, before he
Trump
started running
has
for
an
president.
NAACP like Lifetime Achievement Award.
So, I mean,
Let's not have these
Biden runs
conversations.
again. He'll probably get the endorsement next time from
I don't want to say that Jesse Jackson's endorsement is purchasable, but I will say odds are some endowment was funded for that. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I was surprised to see it, but that just shows the divide right now in the DNC. So,
Well, I don't know how the African American community views Jesse Jackson, in what light they hold him. He's no Martin Luther King Jr., right? We know that.
absolutely.
But I still don't know what kind of esteem he has in that community, and if it has weight, like Johnny's asking. That's why I'm curious. I have no idea.
Well,
I guess we'll see.
I think you have prevalent people like Jesse Jackson. You have other prevalent people who've endorsed Joe Biden. So,
Right.
Well, and then the other holdout so far, thanks to Hector, who's basically he's the fifth man
Oh,
on
Hector.
the team. He's our fifth.
We'll get him on the show one of these
He's
days.
our fifth cast member, always hanging out in our comment
He
section. We
fact
appreciate
checks
him.
all the
Yeah,
time.
he does.
He does well, and he made a good point. Is that will Al Sharpton come out of the woodwork? And
I hope
and
not.
endorse.
No,
and-
he won't. He won't.
You don't think he will?
He's on TV.
especially with Jesse coming out.
No, he's on.
Is he still on TV?
Jesse
No,
I
Al's not on
seen-
TV
Al
anymore.
Sharpton.
I-
Al
yeah.
Sharpton
He's
is
still
on
on
TV. Yes,
He is?
CNN. Is it CNN or MSNBC?
No,
I'm not sure.
He was on MSNBC.
He is still on.
He looks a
Wow.
lot different.
Oh, he's super skinny.
Well, he's been super skinny for
Cocaine
years.
is a hell of a drug.
You think he
Oh
does
my
cocaine?
God.
I mean, I just love
I'm
watching.
not saying. I'm just saying it's a very interesting drug.
I just love watching
I'm
him
not saying that
flub
he-
his
All right,
words
there's a
and
line
it's
on
almost
either
like
side.
he's juggling for a whole sentence. It's so much fun to watch.
I anticipate he'll come out and endorse Joe Biden.
Yeah,
You
he'll
really
poke
think
his
that-
head out.
That
think
Al
so.
Sharpton will do Jesse. Okay. Yeah.
I think he will.
You think Biden?
Biden.
Think he endorses Biden? Okay.
I think they're so afraid of what Bernie Sanders will do. It's both sides. I think the Bernie Sanders coalition that he's building is not going to vote for Joe Biden. And this is, again, and we've said this before, we're watching the civil war within the Democratic Party, the establishment coalescing behind Joe Biden.
We went through it as Republicans with Trump.
We went through it, but we let the process play through.
Yes.
It wasn't until June or July, until Florida, I think it was after Florida, that it didn't really coalesce until the end.
Right.
And so we allowed it to play out, because even now, I mean, some of the biggest individuals that were fighting each other at that time, Ted Cruz and Trump had a big deal.
Yeah.
Newt Gingrich were fighting each other. So and now they carry their water. But I think what's going to happen in this course is that I think Bernie Sanders is going to do what he did last time, and he's going to collapse. He doesn't fight. For as much as he talks about revolution and change, he doesn't fight.
Can you
for
imagine
it.
Trump and him debating
Oh,
when Biden can't even remember his wife's name, or that he's running for the presidency, not the Senate? Can you imagine him debating Trump on stage
I don't think
when Trump's going at him?
I don't think Trump is afraid at all for Joe Biden. I think he shows pity, honestly. Seeing that they're allowing Joe Biden to fight and try to represent the Democrat Party in the feeble health that he's dealing with now, you're going to see pity out of Donald Trump. You're not going to see a war path. So it's going to be interesting to see it.
Interesting. I mean, he'll play it right, however it is. I mean, the man doesn't make mistakes. It's incredible.
Well, okay, he does make mistakes.
I'll say it again.
He
The man
does.
doesn't make mistakes.
The president has made
Incredible.
mistakes in the past.
I'll
I haven't
echo
seen
that.
any. I have not seen any. Name one.
echo that.
Name one.
It's because you have the Kool-Aid that you're literally sipping right now.
All right. On that note, we got a clip here to share because, again, as we all know, my favorite candidate in 2020, aside from the president, is Tulsi Gabbard, that everybody seems to forget, and the establishment has obviously pushed out. And, well, they pushed her out, and they won't even include her in the next debate. So
they changed the rules just so that she wouldn't be on the
stage.
Absolutely.
Well,
she's got one delegate.
Just two delegates. What's with you and the delegate
Pardon
numbers?
Me.
Well, here's a clip of Kamala Harris saying that there are no women in the race. Here we go.
I think that we all know, and this election cycle in particular, has also presented very legitimate questions about the challenges of women running for president of the United States.
Why do you say that?
Well, it's obvious. Just look at what's happened. Look at what's happened. There are no women currently in this race.
And again, you got to love it, because early on, somebody showed me a picture of all the female presidential candidates, like in a room, and the sun is coming through the window, and they're all high-fiving each other, and they're all like, lovey-dovey. And then, of course, they ended up destroying each other throughout the campaign, and especially Kamala to not come out and endorse Joe Biden. An establishment guy who has a terrible record if you go back far enough when it comes to the black community. And then the fact that there's another woman of color still in the race that she refuses to acknowledge. And they continue to shoot themselves in the foot.
It's going to be interesting to see how, because again, they're all vying for positions in the Joe Biden White House if he gets it. I think she was one of them that went hardest on Joe Biden, talking about that she was one of those girls that got redistricted when he was passing those laws, the busing situation, and it was her that all that was happening to her, and so she made it so personal, and none of that landed, and it damaged her, and then she got knocked out, and
she played the victim.
She played
Victims
the victim,
don't
and
win
also
the presidency.
Gabbard was the one that knocked out Kamala Harris in one of the debates, and so I think that's why she would never. I don't think she believes that she's still in the race. I think she really does think.
So what about all that girls gotta stick together stuff? What about that?
I'm not a female, so I have no idea how that empowerment works, and I won't be one to say.
When you're running
anything.
for president, all that's out of the window.
Well, we're not seeing it here. That we know.
Yeah,
we're not seeing it.
So the next batch of elections are actually happening tomorrow, March 10th. Yep. We have Michigan, Washington, Missouri, Mississippi, Idaho, and North Dakota. At the moment, I believe it's a little bit under 500 delegates that are going to go after tomorrow. I will say Bernie Sanders has already said that he's going after Michigan and Washington, which are the two highest delegate count states, whereas Biden is working with Missouri, Michigan, Mississippi, Iowa, Idaho. So I don't know what happens if Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden sweeps another 5 states. Do you think that Bernie Sanders should step out or step down, or what do you think should happen?
Bernie stepping out.
He ain't gonna step down until it's over. Until he mathematically can't win it, if
he loses Michigan, he can't win it.
Yeah, he's done. He's not getting Mississippi. I mean, Biden
he's writing his next book. I don't think he actually plans on getting elected. He's writing his next book so he can buy yet another house. How many houses does he have?
He has 3 houses right now.
He's a millionaire. Notice he doesn't say millionaires in his speeches anymore. He's not saying we need to fight against millionaires. No, we need to fight against billionaires. Now, once he becomes a billionaire, I don't think he's going to be harping on billionaires again.
Our system is so good
yes.
to Democrat socialists that they can have millions. Right. And 3 homes.
Well, in this economy, and this country has never had more millionaires in its history than it does right now. And so what does that tell you about capitalism? That it continues to rise people and allows for economic upward mobility. Is it perfect? No. Is it hard to, sometimes to break out of some of those economic cycles and have that upward mobility? Absolutely. But the opportunity is there. Especially now with the internet. I mean, we're seeing ways that it's never been easier to go out there, start your own business, make your own money, determine your own destiny economically. And again, for these guys to come in here and want to basically destroy it all, I think it would be disastrous for the entire world. I mean, much less the United States. So to kind of transition right into the next two topics, we're going to get into a little bit of a health situation. As we were kind of alluding to, Joe Biden showing a lot of possible, mental health issues. Of course, very well known publicly that Bernie Sanders has some health issues. What irks me about all of this, because I'd rather not talk about it, is the fact that this became a major issue in 2008 when John McCain ran against Barack Obama, because, again, people felt very strongly one way or another about Sarah Palin. And so the question became, what happens if John McCain dies? Because, of course, he'd had bouts with cancer. Obviously, we know now that he would have outlived his presidency. But how heavily do you think it's going to weigh on people as to whether or not these guys are going to make it through the next 4 years if they were to be elected president? And how much does that weigh on their choice for VP?
I mean, both of them are up there in age, so what other options?
77, 78?
I don't think Democrats care about that at all. I think they just want to get Trump knocked out of the office. That's all they care about. That's it.
I agree. I agree that the electability is what really is driving the Democratic Party at the moment to elect either a double bypass survivor or someone that's potentially going through dementia. So
which one is which?
Exactly. So
hard to tell at this point.
At the moment,
hard to keep up.
It's gonna be weird, and so everyone was talking about this 2 months ago, a month ago, that Joe Biden was not the person that should take it, and that we should just let him mosey, find the exit somehow, and move on. But now that he's the actual, he's soon to be the presumptive nominee. Yeah. That's going to cause a lot of problems. I don't think they're going to survive the rigorous race of campaigning for a presidential campaign.
Yeah, because it ain't over yet.
It hasn't even started. It hasn't even started.
Yeah, I mean we're in March right now. We got a long way to go. He can't keep it up.
Yeah, I don't think he will be able to.
Biden or Bernie. Bernie is a little more sprite, even though he had heart surgery.
Bernie just had a heart attack.
Yeah, like about a month and a half ago or so. Okay. Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, it's funny because it comes up so many times now. They're the party against old white men, and yet who are their two nominees right now? Two old white rich dudes
that essentially pushed out all the women. Pushed out all the people of color.
Except for Tulsi. She's still in it.
Still in there.
Yeah. I mean, they're willingly, obviously, choosing to ignore her. And I think
that's the thing. It's an effective strategy. Just ignore them, right?
And what's sad is that, honestly, like, if they really wanted to go after the people who don't like this president, the Republicans, the independents who are willing to cross the aisle, who are willing to change parties in an election like this, she... honestly, and I've heard it from many, many people, she was their best bet.
Yeah,
and I agree. I agree. I don't know if I'm being biased. I just like her because military background, and if you hear her point, she's very she knows what she's talking about.
Very well spoken,
and in the middle, even keel,
and she's hot.
And on that note, we'll move on to our next.
I will agree.
We're all thinking it.
I'm choosing my words wisely because my wife is in the room, and I will say this: that if you wanted us to be able to think about voting for someone else besides Donald Trump, I think she was a perfect case study. Young, female, articulate, very well accomplished. In the military,
she checked off so
many boxes, and that is what made a lot of Republicans and independents really think, hey, I could vote for her. I could see myself voting for her if I had the choice. And they're not giving us that choice when it comes to Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden. So I think what we're going to see tomorrow is, I wouldn't be surprised if Sanders pulls off a win in Michigan or in Washington. I think he needs to win both of those states tomorrow. Biden can win the other 4. I mean, at the end of the day, that's probably around 100 delegates on his side. But Bernie Sanders needs to pull out a win tomorrow. And if he doesn't, I don't think mathematically he has a path to convention, which means that this might be over tomorrow.
Well, but that was going to be my question, to follow up what you just said. does Bernie get out? I don't think he does. I think he's going to be stubborn. I think he's going to fight. I think he's
No,
he didn't do it last time. I mean, he hung in there up until the last minute.
His followers are
feel the burn.
He's only fighting. Today was the first time I've ever seen him actually take jabs against Joe Biden. This is the first time I've seen it happen. The last debate, he said that, Joe Biden's my friend, or Joe Biden's my friend. We worked together a long time.
Yeah.
Then why should I vote against him? If you're saying that he's a great guy and you guys work together, then I'm going to vote for Joe Biden because he's someone that's a little bit safer in the middle and
an actual Democrat.
And an actual Democrat.
Correct.
And that's why Bernie Sanders has never been able to fight it. He has never been able to push any of his positions to be able to push them into law. I think he's only passed 3 bills into law. He's passed 9 bills and only 3 of them ever went into become the law. Out of almost 40 years in government, that's a horrible that's a horrible record.
Yeah, kind of legacy is that.
And that's garbage. The thing. I mean, honestly, Elizabeth Warren has actually more to show than Bernie, and I think maybe even Biden does. Aside from the VP stuff that he keeps taking credit for. But all right, anyways, we are kind of at the midway point topic-wise here of the show. Thank you so much to everybody for watching. Again, we are on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show, we'd love to get this show in front of more people all across the country, especially as we get closer to the November elections. And then also make sure you're subscribing to the audio version of the podcast on Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You not only want to subscribe, but go ahead and give us a rating if you don't mind. It really helps us compete against all the other podcasts out there. Pulling up our topic list. Coronavirus, housing affordability, impact fees, which is our local topic of the day, and then we'll kind of close it out with Anibal's Attic, who's going to pick apart the oil price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia. But
I really feel that the oil price war, if you would have looked at your phone, should be moved up around Corona, just because it breaks that down. But
I can do that.
Okay.
So, but let's go ahead and start at least on the topic. So, with the coronavirus continuing to spread, Italy on complete lockdown, which is amazing to me that you could even do that this day and age. And we're starting. Is it going to continue to get worse before it gets better, or are we kind of at peak right now?
So the current case, those that have the case of corona, has shot well past 100,000. We're getting closer to 110, 120,000. Bulk is still in China with 80,000 cases there, but it's grown so much more in certain hotspots around the world. South Korea with over 7,000 cases, especially also in Italy and Iran, with France and Germany rounding out that of 1,000 plus. What's happening in Europe is a huge example of the ill preparedness that country was able to put themselves in. Iran, by not even recognizing that was with Iran, it's for some reason the same comment of like, oh, we don't have gays in Iran, like that, the stupidity of that country and their inability to recognize when problems were happening, to the point to where the health minister caught the disease. I think one of the other prime ministers has died from the disease, and I wouldn't be surprised if Iran and China are lying. I know for a fact China is lying about its numbers. I don't believe for a moment that it's under.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
I don't believe at all. I think the death rate is much higher in China. The death rate in Iran is currently 227. I think that's going to jump up significantly. I completely believe South Korea and Italy's numbers. I think they're not going to lie to us. I think they're telling us exactly what's happening there, and I do feel very worried about what's happening in Italy if they can tamper it down, because if it can do that in Italy, it's going to blow up everywhere else in Europe.
Yep.
The United States is still only at 565 confirmed cases. About 4,000 people are currently under observation and self-quarantine, with the death rate in the United States just updated to 26. So I think we were having this conversation earlier that how comfortable or how nonchalant are you when it comes to this virus?
Yes. Well, I mean, me personally, obviously I don't want to get it. I do consider it a more extreme version of the flu. I know it's not the flu. I get that. I'm just comparing it to that because it's flu-like symptoms, flu-like severity, but I know it is a little bit more severe, right? I don't want to catch it, but I'm not going to panic at all about this. If I catch it, I catch it. I know 3 people right now that might actually have it because they're saying to self-quarantine right now. and the only place that can test you for it is the CDC or the WHO, one of those two organizations, right? And obviously they're saying don't come in to get tested because then you have a higher probability of catching it.
Yeah.
So they're saying if you think you have it, just stay home and, eat soup.
I think it's serious. It's an issue, but I think media has helped blow it out of proportion. I think if you just go back to basic hygiene, like washing your hands, that's one way to prevent getting it. And if you start feeling sick, stay at home, self-quarantine yourself. So, sure. I mean, I'm taking precautions. I was supposed to go on spring break this week, take my family on a cruise.
Where are you going to go? Oh, on a cruise?
Yeah, on a cruise.
You made the right choice there, but now that is one thing I would not do right now. I would not take a cruise. Yes, that I wouldn't do right now.
So I'll be the smart one and stay home.
Yeah.
I guess I'll.
Did you get your money back?
I'm working on that right now. Hopefully,
good luck.
Hope
you get it.
It's
tough.
Norwegian, so.
Ooh, and that's expensive.
I think. Oh, it's very expensive.
Tell me about it.
Well, someone's floating high class. And so, I will say this. I think I'm sorry. That was dorky of me.
We're used to it.
I will say this. I think the economic impact that's currently affecting the markets is more panic than anything else. And I think people need to understand that the stock market is not a clear reflection of when it comes to GDP in the United States. It's more of like stock owners and stock brokers are really having a crazy time at the moment. Don't look at your 401ks. Look at it later. Don't take money out of the market. Just don't. Just chill.
Don't panic sell.
Yeah, just chill. It's going to come back. Everything will be fine.
Like it has every single time there's any sort of incident like this in the past.
And I think people forget how many people were diagnosed with swine flu. I mean, it was in the millions of people that were diagnosed, and the death rate was very low. I think that's what's happening now. I will say this. I have no idea that the coronavirus had a correlation with toiletries. Like that is like thing that's running out of supermarkets right now.
And I actually went to Winn-Dixie the other day, like on Sunday, and I was like, "Is there toilet paper?" I was like, "I don't need any, but maybe I should get some just in case." Because I'll tell you what, that's one thing I do not like to run out of. You can never have too much toilet paper, people.
But that's the crazy thing. I mean, Costco is literally sold out. I mean, pallets and entire racks of stuff, and these people are buying things that don't make any sense
because 500 people are sick. That's it. 500 people are sick in the U.S. That's
and it's like, okay, I kind of get, right? Because even going to Target last night, you could see that there's like, just racks of Clorox bleach missing. I mean, a lot of hygiene products, cleaning products. I kind of get that, right? Because,
sure.
They're telling you, hey, now, their workplaces now, they're saying you got to clean your workspace every day. Yeah. Don't shake hands. Like, they're trying to take these preventative measures. A lot of people are more people working from home, which I think is going to be a great thing because that's going to push that, I think, as an idea,
I agree with that.
which should have happened a long time ago. Yeah. But I think something like this is going to make people realize that more people can work from home than I think their companies have realized. And
I think you're right
but
about that.
You're right. I mean, when it comes to certain household items, I mean, people are literally stocking up like it's the zombie apocalypse. Yeah. I mean, they're doomsday prepping with like food and toiletries, and and it makes me wonder. Again, actually, let me just go ahead and go to this clip. So I got a clip from Dr. Drew, who is a doctor, very popular, obviously, more so for relationships and dating advice, but at the end of the day, still a doctor. And he actually talks about and breaks down really well about a more realistic perspective. It's a point that actually Jake made last week, which is in comparison of the flu, which we're still in a full-blown season of, versus the coronavirus or COVID-19. Here we go.
What I have a problem with is the panic and the fact that businesses are getting destroyed and people's lives are being upended, not by the virus, but by the panic. The panic must stop. And the press, they really somehow need to be held accountable because they are hurting people.
So again, Dr. Drew there, just trying to bring some common sense into the equation. Certainly, to Chris's point, pointing out that the media has been responsible for some of the insanity. I mean, going to Walmart the other day, there was a woman that came in with a surgical mask and disappointed that she couldn't find more surgical masks. I mean, even though the media, to their credit, has said that these masks don't do anything in regards to COVID-19. And so, I mean, a great dry run, right? I guess, for something more serious, but are we kind of in agreement that the public and the media are overreacting here?
I think the public is doing what it needs to do to feel safe. This is the reason why there's so much panic selling, because people are afraid. They're moving their money out of the stocks and they're moving it into government debt, into government bonds, and that's causing the market to just go crazy right now. I see it as, again, and this is what I have to tell people all the time, because they're like, oh, we're going to go into a recession. We're going into a recession. Last month, we had 273,000 new jobs posted. It was one of the best records that we had.
That was before the coronavirus stuff.
No, really? That was last month.
It was last month, but it was
of hiring. Yes, it was February, the month of February, and then they had to increase the last 2 other months, 80,000 plus. So I think we're gonna see what this looks like next month.
Yeah,
when it comes to job reports and what we're expecting. But at the end of the day, a lot of U.S. manufacturing is still happening. No factories are closing down. We are seeing the economic ripples of like concerts and South by Southwest got canceled got canceled, I believe. In Austin, we're seeing a lot of music other festivals are starting to cancel.
Conference
themselves.
Just got canceled for me for next week. I was supposed to go to Vegas.
So I think the first thing we're gonna see, and I would say this, like this might be another situation where we saw what happened after 9/11. What were the 2 big industries that got hit? Which are airlines and hospitality and leisure. People didn't want to go. People wanted to be more secure. They didn't want to go traveling. They didn't want to go on vacation. They just wanted to stay in house. And I think that's what we're going to see that again. And it's going to be a little difficult to see that happen. But I think
I was going to make that same comparison with 9/11. Actually, I was going to make that same comparison. We didn't see it coming. We weren't prepared for it. We got hit hard. Did a lot of damage. And then we learned from it, right? So I do think that's one aspect. Yes, this is a complete overreaction by the media, but it might help prepare us.
I think it's going to be the situation, especially being spring break. So
huge losses.
If you think about that economic impact.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So.
Well, Chris, not to pull back too much of the curtain on your life outside the yard sign, but I know you have actually been trained in emergency management. And what are kind of some of the things that are unexpected or maybe different about how they're talking about handling this sort of situation versus previous types of, let's say, emergencies?
Well, I think with this situation, it's unlike something we've ever seen. You see now we're scrambling with the test kits, and a large factor is external influence. People coming from other countries. So we're really kind of unsure how to handle it. On the flip side, I think Florida has done a great job of handling it, being transparent, even holding cruise ships and other vessels out at sea until they can confirm the people on board if they have it or not. So I think I would like to say Florida is actually leading, and I think the country should be kind of modeling what Florida is doing in that regards.
Well, that is good to hear, because that's probably the first time I've ever heard those words uttered from somebody's mouth.
Especially not during election time, right?
Especially not during election time. Yeah. So no, that's
but I like what the governor is doing, being very transparent, meeting with the cruise industries, and so forth. So I think Florida has a pretty good handle on it. Only time will tell, but from my perspective.
And as long as other people are doing what they're being responsible, they are. If they do feel sick, they stay home. If they're washing down their workstations, and I think it's because we don't know enough information about incubation period. We don't know enough about what's going on. Some people can be a carrier and not even know that they're sick up to 14 days. So there's a lot of things that are happening on that situation. But I will say, as long as the community is doing what they're doing and nonprofits are doing what they need to get done, and you even have some of the most interesting organizations doing their part to contribute and to curb the effects of coronavirus. In Tampa, which is well known for their strip clubs and adult entertainment, Deja Vu has officially announced that they will be handing out 10,000 face masks for patrons to make sure that they do not affect anyone in their jobs or while they're going for the buffet. And let
me tell you, those face masks are more effective against. Those face masks are more effective against the strippers than they are against COVID-19. I'll tell you that.
Don't do the buffet, guys. Don't do it.
And they will also. And they will also. I've heard though that Dollhouse has an amazing. Buffet.
You've heard?
I've heard. I've never.
You hear this?
I have not participated in the Dollhouse breakfast.
Dollhouse. Where is that at?
I believe.
We only have a conversation after this. She's like, who'd you hear that from?
It's on your Google history, so you can just.
So if I can't find mask in Walmart, I can just go to Dollhouse and get a mask.
I think that's how it works. Deja Vu is providing.
I don't think it's worth it.
Deja Vu is providing 10,000
might catch something far worse
and 50,000 bottles of hand sanitizer. So if you can't find it at Walmart, you can find it at Deja Vu.
Yeah, pretty much you'd catch something far worse than any of those places.
Yeah.
I doubt my wife will buy that.
Honey, I'm going to the strip club to get hand sanitizer and face mask. I'll see you in a bit.
Walmart was empty.
The Walmart was empty. At least now you know. And
Well,
now you know.
Did y'all hear that Ted Cruz and Matt Gaetz self-quarantine themselves for the next couple weeks?
Let me tell you something.
I have a
Hold on.
huge problem with Matt Gaetz right now.
So Cruz,
the gas mask.
I think that was awesome.
That wasn't even connected to anything.
Maybe he felt like he was exposed to that guy, and he did that to not infect anybody.
well, those
else.
masks don't have to be connected to anything. Those big discs are what purifies the air that he inhales.
It was such a phony.
Yeah, the disc
social
It was
media.
hilarious. It was
It
meant
was
to
hilarious,
be funny.
but-
It was meant to be
Funny
funny.
on something that's actually extremely serious.
Was that before or after
Yeah,
CPAC?
and he got a lot of flack for
I
it.
think
Was that before or
I think
after?
It was right after.
It was before.
It was
CPAC.
before?
No,
Before
was
CPAC.
it? I thought it was after. I thought it was right after.
I thought it was right after too. So if it was after, then regardless, inadvertently or on purpose, he did not infect anybody else that he came into contact with while in session.
The purpose of you wearing the face mask is if you are symptomatic and you do feel sick, so you're not spreading it around. People that are healthy should
that
not
face mask
be wearing.
works both ways.
People that
It
are
works both
healthy
ways.
should not be wasting and taking face masks away from other people.
He wasn't healthy.
Yeah, but that's a
he
military.
came into contact.
No, okay. So look, this is what I really think. Ted Cruz came into contact with somebody at CPAC who apparently, allegedly, has been diagnosed with COVID-19. Right?
Yep.
Matt Gaetz, on the other hand, I think is basically hiding from the media after having made fun of the coronavirus by wearing a gas mask in the Senate. In the House chambers.
Absolutely ridiculously over the top.
Okay, but it was funny.
But it was a joke, and I get it.
Is he not allowed to joke around?
Not when 26 Americans have died.
Okay, well, all right.
You are a state representative,
but
people are dying from
it was bad. It was
lots
a bad
of
joke.
people are dying from the flu and stuff, and we make fun of that too.
You
But I get
make
it. I
fun of
get it.
that.
We should be sensitive, but I still thought it was.
It was amusing.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was amusing.
We're Republicans. We can laugh about stuff.
Anyways, with the continuation, the fallout economically when it comes to the coronavirus, it is having ripple effects around the world. On countries that were already teetering on the economic recession throughout Europe, Asia, and Latin America are finding themselves in positions reducing their GDP growth and continuing to see themselves fall under that. A good example for that was Germany was already 0.5% in the black. Japan was 0.9. They're definitely probably going to go into recession if they can't continue to produce what they're producing and continue to isolate themselves. Whereas in the United States, it's not looking that this is going to cause that much of maybe half a point, 0.5% in regards to GDP break. It is a lot. I do agree it is a lot. But last year we were at 2.9% GDP growth. So it just depends on how quickly it gets resolved.
Yeah.
If we see that the cases are starting to diminish in the next week or two, or in the next month, if there's some kind of clinical trials happening and we're in the middle of summer and things are starting to turn around, I think it'll be fine. I think the economy will come back up because people like their money. And people don't like getting taken out for that long of a time. So I think that will happen. I do see that more of a V when it comes to the back to economic growth.
Serious question. Do y'all think Corona beer is going to change their name?
There's a poll out there that says 30% of the U.S. population believes that the company of Corona has something to do with the virus Corona.
Well, I don't believe that. I don't think any
I
sane person.
I'm a
believes
Heineken
that.
guy. I could care less.
That same poll also says that 7% of Americans believe chocolate milk comes from chocolate or comes from brown cows. So like this is the reason why we don't believe in.
Wait, then where does it come
democracies.
from if it doesn't? I'm just kidding. We'll talk after though.
Yes, that's an offline conversation.
Completely unrelated.
But, the economic impact of coronavirus, I was chatting with somebody about this several weeks ago, that even if coronavirus did not come to the U.S., which it has, I think a lot of people were overlooking that economic impact. Just it's certain things like your laptops, where they come from.
Supply chain.
Yeah, supply chain.
Yep.
And laptops, the automobile industry. And nobody was thinking about that. And I think people are seeing that now.
That is true.
So it kind of brings up the topic, should the U.S. increase its manufacturing of some of those
that's a good question.
Commodities.
I think yes and no. I mean, I love the fact that the manufacturing is overseas for one reason, only one reason, and that's that they're destroying their own environment, and we get to keep our air nice and clean. They have to wear face masks already. They've been wearing face masks
it's the
since
same planet.
Okay, yeah, it's the same planet, but I don't have to wear a face mask when I walk outside like they do in China.
Tell me how you really feel.
I'm telling you.
It's one planet. It's affecting all of
But
us.
on the other hand, the reason I dislike having those jobs over there is because those are jobs that could be going to Americans, right? We're the ones paying for them to make it. We're the ones buying it back. Why not just make it here? Well, I do love that the pollution isn't released into our environment. That's the only reason. That's the only pro that I can see.
Okay, I don't want to go.
Same planet, blah, blah, blah.
It is the same
blah,
planet.
blah, blah.
Anyways, I think what's happening now is you're seeing what U.S. companies are going to tinker with their supply chains, making sure that they're not focused. This screws China. This screws China so much because now it's like you have all your eggs in one basket, and if that country goes to hell in a handbasket, now you're having problems with getting your because it's not like these large pieces. It's these like small pieces that can be produced in a mass scale that. They need to be their distributions and their manufacturing needs to be spread out around the world or brought back to the United States. Pharmaceuticals is a big one. There's a lot of pills and medicines that cannot be that are starting to go in rationed because it's taking longer for them to get those factories back open.
That's true.
And I mean, Puerto Rico was a huge place for pharmaceuticals and manufacturing there, and that is something that probably needs to go back to.
But China is one of those countries that you were basically talking about when you were saying that. It's affecting countries that are teetering already.
Yes.
Now, they aren't on the brink of going bankrupt by any means, but their GDP has been slowing way down for the past 10 years.
The current GDP for China has been a lie the last 10 years. Has been a lie. And I will also say this. What will happen when their borrowing bubble officially explodes will be something for the history books when it comes
to... Another USSR type situation,
I think it's 10. I say this. The China that we see today will not be the same China that we see in 10 years.
Interesting.
All right. Well, actually, it's a good transition point for our next topic. I'll pull up the list because I did as was asked, and I moved to the oil price war up in the list. But some articles, some experts out there are saying that because of the coronavirus and the impact that that's having on the global economy, more specifically oil usage, and again, oil, when we talk about oil, it's more than just gasoline. I mean, oil goes into just about everything we consume in some form or another.
I drink it every day.
It is now created an all-out price war between Russia and OPEC. And so, of course, again, the consumer wins in this situation in the short term, but long term, are we going to see a pretty horrible situation here develop out of this price war between OPEC and Russia, or do they figure it out?
Currently, what has happened is you're watching a he said, she said when it comes to what's happening between Russia and Saudi Arabia. OPEC, which is basically a cartel, is trying to dictate they're trying to reduce oil production, which will stabilize the current, I think it's like $23 or $24 per barrel of oil, which is insanely low right now. So what happened is Russia was working with Venezuela to try to get oil out of their reserves and started putting it into tankers. The U.S. found out what was happening. They put sanction on it, and Saudi Arabia agreed with the sanctions with a Russian oil company in Russia. Russia is now pissed off at Saudi Arabia for what happened, and it's causing this kind of, they're not cutting not manufacturing. They're not cutting oil production in Russia or in Saudi Arabia, which is causing oil prices to drop significantly. Yes, it is a boom for the consumer. However, it is also a detriment to the economic output when it comes to how much more oil will be produced with these countries, because what causes the oil to go down in prices now causes U.S. Oil refineries and oil plants and the independent oil to go down also, which is causing a lot of pain financially for U.S. oil.
Which makes me feel pretty good because I literally have to fill up my tank on the way home. I'm on E. So this is like perfect timing for me. I'm going to save at least $2.
$2.09. It's so low right now in some parts of the state, and even though in California it's probably still $4 per gallon.
Oh yeah,
they don't let that fluctuate below $4.
Thank you, OPEC.
Now, Chris, you have some relation to the energy sector. So how is this kind of affecting all of that, and is there an immediate impact that's felt when things like this break out, or does this sort of thing kind of take time before it really starts to affect those of us, again, who consume it through utilities, through gas stations, through even just the purchase of products?
Yeah, I think you have an immediate impact, and that's going to determine where you are in the country, and then it's going to have a ripple effect over time. So it just kind of shows our dependency on the foreign oil, and go solar.
But a lot of things that we do on a day-to-day basis are petroleum based.
Right.
The airlines are going to be able to renegotiate their contracts.
They're making out like bandits.
Yes. Oh yeah, there's so many people are going to be able to benefit from this. But again, it can only last so long.
But here's the thing: the United States is the world's #1 oil exporter, right? So you said gas is now just $2.09. Well, I mean, before this happened, what was it, $2.50, $2.60? So, that's not even that big of a dip.
We shouldn't look at it at gasoline prices. You should look at cost per barrel for oil.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the year, I think it was like in the high 30s, TD around 40, which Saudi Arabia and other countries like it when it's around $50 per
Remember
gallon.
when it was like 100?
I remember,
and they pushed it
12, 113.
Remember
it was
that?
Ridiculous.
I was like, when is it going to end?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that was terrible.
And so what we're seeing now is, again, you have two big oil developing countries that are basically fighting each other for dominance and control of OPEC. And I think Russia is doing nothing but a disservice to themselves and to their people, almost like another I used to know this.
You think Russia is doing nothing but a disservice? Why?
Well, because they are purposely continuing to increase the production of oil, which then decreases the cost,
the value of it,
because there's a glut of oil, and that just does nothing but bring down the
like
cost
inflation,
of it.
essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's what's happening, and they're doing it on purpose to get back at Saudi Arabia, and that's what we're seeing right now. I think this might happen for a few months, actually, that they're going to keep on going back and forth.
Love it.
Because Russia likes pain.
Because here's the thing. When I have heard a couple people today say, yeah, this, it's really not a good thing. Well, here's the thing. The average American is only going to see good.
The consumer will see positive of it. However,
they will see no negative ramifications, in my opinion.
But that also shows that there's not growth economically. So what should be pushing commodity prices is a production of scale, not the other way around. And that's what this throws everything off when it comes to economy and when it comes to how things are supposed to be measured. It's being influenced incorrectly, and that's just going to cause a detriment to society.
It's fun. I think it's fun. I like it. I'm all for it.
Geopolitics at its best, people. Geopolitics at its best. Okay, that was the war for oil.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and switch over here. There we go. Get the table back up. Again, thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you, especially our comment section. Thanks to everybody. I want to say what's up to Laura, who's watching, Dave, Jeffrey. What up, Jeffrey? And of course, Hector. Thanks to everybody hanging out in the comments, and we'd love to hear your perspective, your questions for the show. We are watching the comments live on all of our pages, so thank you so much, and please continue to send those in, and don't forget to subscribe for our audio podcasts on Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and while you're at it, just drop us a little 5-star rating if you don't mind. It's the Yard Sign coming to you every Monday, just around 7 o'clock, if you will. We've had a lot to talk about. Now we're going to go ahead and shift a little bit to our local topic, which is housing affordability. And of course, this is a very popular topic nationally, right? And the disparity between income and the rising prices of homes, because we've had a strong economy. Still very much a seller's market, I'd say more so than a buyer's market. Although still mortgage rate wise, it's been a buyer's market. So it kind of depends on what your angle is. But locally now, the county commission, in collusion with the school board, has decided to double the impact fee, putting on about $1,700 on top of the price of every new home that's built going forward. This is following a 0.5% sales tax that they were given last year via ballot, and to me, again, you're feeding the drug addict, right? Because we have people that continue to make terrible choices in terms of financial management. We've got a new superintendent, but again, does he or does he not hold the purse strings? We don't know yet, because that all comes down to the dynamic between the school board and the superintendent. I would say, and we have a teacher here in the audience, the previous superintendent was certainly more of someone who went with the flow and did as he was told, rather than kind of trying to be a leader in that situation. Based on somebody who knows our new superintendent, this is actually a very common practice for him. And I think for him to have pulled this off so quickly into his tenure here in Hillsborough County says that this guy might have a lot more influence than people are expecting. But nonetheless, are these guys just feeding at the trough, and are they really that insatiable, or is this money that needs to come into the system, given the growth that we're experiencing as a county? Sorry, that was a lot to process.
So I think that it needs to happen. I mean, it's to go to the schools in South Hillsborough County, and I live down that way, and it's just it's growing, and
I get it. There's old schools down there. There's, the schools down there are old, and they need to be updated. So
that's just two different topics. I mean, that sales tax that we passed, that was to update the schools.
Right.
Like, this is more for the funding of new schools. So, a lot of people are, on opposite sides with this, but me, father, a young daughter, her education is very important to me, and I think it's something that needs to happen.
But when we're talking about, again, the affordability of housing, and people continue to complain that the price of housing outpaces wage growth, are they not only exacerbating the problem here? I mean, you're adding $2,000 onto the price of every single new home that's built. Rent prices are going to go up. Home prices are going to go up. And don't get me wrong, that may slow down the market some, because it is wildfire out there. Properties are still on the market, I think, for less than a month before they're snatched up. But at what point do you say, you know what, you're basically cutting yourself off? I'm trying to find the right metaphor
it's supply
for
and demand.
Yeah, but exactly. But you can't come out and say that, hey, we have a housing affordability problem, and then at the same time go and then raise the taxes, raise the impact fees, and then wonder why we have a housing affordability problem.
Right.
So I think the biggest issue that's occurring right now is that it's not 2,000, John. It's 4,000. It was doubled. Yeah. So originally it was 4,000 for single family residents. It's now 8,000 for single family residents. So that's a big jump into that. I understand the reasoning for increasing the impact fees and raising taxes, just because the last boom, which was in the 90s, really developed the north part of Hillsborough County, and not much of the south part of Hillsborough County was developed during the 90s. The last 5, 6, 10 years, the south and I would say east sides of the Hillsborough County have really developed, and they don't have the infrastructure when it comes to those schools that they need to be building and everything else. My question is, what have we not learned at all from the 90s to now that we're not building these schools to keep pace of development? So I think it's a huge issue right now that the council or the county commissioners do not want urban sprawl, and the way you get rid of sprawl, rural sprawl, is by increasing fees so that they think twice about building out in those communities.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's not just urban sprawl is absolutely a problem, and that's certainly where the problem lies. I mean, again, to Chris's point, my daughter lives in that part of the county, and again, the schools are very old. The infrastructure in general, in just about every aspect. We're talking about the roads, we're talking about water, we're talking about it's all outdated, okay? And because the growth outpaced the infrastructure. But when you look through even older parts of Tampa, and I currently live in West Tampa, which is, again, one of the older neighborhoods, and you see houses being torn down, and then they'll put 2 houses where there previously was 1 house, and now they're putting up a $400,000 house in the middle of a neighborhood where, honestly, people are probably making below the median wage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's, if people are paying it, then it's worth it. It's just like a Picasso. Is it worth $10 million? Well, technically, it's worth $15 million if somebody's going to pay $15 million for it.
But
it's really just supply and demand.
But it's not even that. You have the growth of Hillsborough County, of people coming into the county that are not are more from California, from the Northeast. They're coming in with a larger.
They're moving in, right?
They're coming in with a much larger weight. Income base,
sure.
So which is starting to outprice a lot of natives and a lot of Southerners when it comes to the city of Tampa, where it's becoming much more difficult. But what I'm saying is, it's inflating a market that does not need to be at that number.
Okay, but if I rented out my house tomorrow, right, and I put it on the market for $2,000 a month, and somebody paid it, I don't ask any questions. I don't care if they're from California.
No,
if I can get $2,000 now, if I put it on for $2,000. 3 weeks goes by, nobody's filling it up. I drop the price $200. Somebody pays $1,800 a month. Boom. Okay.
And that's why you get prices in downtown.
That's how it works.
The core of downtown. The core of downtown. You're getting a studio for $3,000. That these people are willing to make those payments, but that's also inflating and causing a bigger problem when it comes to inaffordability of housing.
And look, that's the thing. I'm all for supply and demand, right? But then when you look at situations where the people that can't afford to live closest to the areas where they need to live because of where they work, you're pushing those people further and further out into the outskirts. New York has this problem. The people who basically make the city run, your garbage, people in the service industry, right? Sure. They can't afford to live in Manhattan. They have to live in New Jersey. They have to live in, in the outskirts, and they have an hour commute, a 2-hour commute, because they can't afford to live. And that's the problem we're having now. They just torn down. They just sold that huge housing complex in Ybor City. Of course, because, right now people think that it's a gold rush out there because they think the stadium is coming. And now you've got over 300 families that are displaced that are probably going to end up in the eastern and southern parts of the county because you can't go north. Wesley Chapel, New Tampa, Pasco, right along the county line, Pinellas, it's all incredibly overpriced. So where do those folks go? And then how are they able to keep those jobs when commuting and getting to these jobs and again filling these jobs that need to be filled and are enough of a challenge as it is.
I think there's a term for that. Gentrification.
I love gentrification. By the way, I am pro gentrification.
It has its pros and cons, but that's nothing new to Tampa. They've been doing that for years. Every time they'll turn down a housing development. A lot of those housing vouchers go out to, Riverview, South Hillsborough County. So that's been happening for years.
Mm-hmm, true.
But now with the prices going up, the fees, it's going to be an issue with, affordability.
And Tallahassee just fully funded the affordability, the housing affordability for, I think it was like $500 million that they just funded to make sure that tranche was available for affordable housing.
That's a lot of money.
But see, and then what bugs me is the hypocrisy behind the issue. Mm-hmm. Because you have Democrats and bureaucrats, to really generalize it, that want to go ahead and they want to complain to Tallahassee and they want to complain to the federal government that we need more housing. We need more affordable housing and more money for affordable housing. Meanwhile, Buckhorn tore down how many affordable housing communities? Now, they were in horrible shape, and that's a whole nother issue. But they literally, under Buckhorn's administration, they literally displaced, I would say, hundreds, if not thousands of families out of the core of Tampa for basically a real estate gold rush, which is now all this property that's popping up along the river, and you see now all these new apartment complexes popping up.
It looks really
It looks
good.
great, but again, those people also need a place to go.
Of course.
And that's the problem.
But I don't think, you know how I am. I don't believe that this falls on the government. I believe it falls on the individual to make more money. I don't even believe in Section 8 housing or housing vouchers or housing affordability. Whatever the market dictates a place costs, that's what I believe in. yeah, I don't think the government should even touch this.
But the government is manipulating the situation to begin with by allowing the sales of these low income housing.
Which shouldn't exist to begin with.
But I understand where you're coming from, but this is the reality in the situation that we're at right now.
Yeah. Well,
That
it's gone
these positions, no, there's still a few left in the city.
No, I'm saying the one that we're talking about in Ybor.
Well, Robles Park is still available, and that's Buckhorn has been trying to get rid of that for a while. I don't know what Castro wants to do with that now, but I think the problem is that you are purposely manipulating the system to increase value in those properties so that those neighborhoods can be demolished and then a new shiny thing can be brought up. That's the government.
What's wrong with that?
But that's the government manipulating the system.
But you have these people that displace.
Yes.
Where they're going to go, and it's not as easy as you put it out.
Yeah.
It's not. I admit that.
So,
it's not.
Some people are going to need some assistance. I think the city of Tampa, they have a program where it's more like a transitional where, hey, we're going to get you here. We're going to get you the skills and to get you out on your own. Some people are going to just need that extra help. Now, I think there needs to be a plan in place where these families can't just keep receiving government assistance. They're going to have to have some type of vigor to get out of that cycle.
I'm 100% in agreement with you. I would be okay with a plan, to help them transition out of that, but that should be the plan. It shouldn't be, hey, you are a perfectly able-bodied human being. You're not stupid. Get a job, get a skill, and get a job like everybody else. You don't just get to sit in this government-funded house. That's not fair.
I agree, but like I said, it's always not.
It's not as simple.
I admit it. Cut and dry.
I agree with you.
Well, there are people that are never going to make. Again, if you are working at the if you are working at the McDonald's on Kennedy Boulevard, right? Given the housing prices in that area, the truth of the matter is that at least have a 30 to 45 minute commute to live anywhere near that McDonald's. And that's only getting worse. That's accounting for some of those communities that are nearby.
Jobs like that.
And so the problem is you're exacerbating the problem because the people that work there and work, let's say, at that Walmart across the street, okay, those folks are making a fixed wage, right?
Sure.
And then on top of that, now you're adding costs to their commute because now they have to live further out. Now they have to live over in the Notasasa. They
then what
have to live
happens
in
if they
Riverview.
all
They have
quit?
to live in Brandon.
What happens if they all quit? Then their wages would go up because supply and demand, right? But they're
not going to quit.
They're
and
doing it.
But also, people working in those facilities should not be the end goal of them staying there and working in a McDonald's. The goal should be to continue to move up and move into better employment situations. Some can, and some do. I'm not arguing.
That was my first job. My first job was McDonald's.
We're not here to argue the concept of mobility when it comes to economic development. But I want to say that I kind of agree with Johnny, and I agree with you also, Joe, that the government should not be manipulating the system to be able to pick favorites, because that's what's happening now.
Because then what if they regulate and say, hey, people who rent out their houses, you can only increase your rent 10%. Well, then what happens when they decide, oh, you know what, 10%, that's still too much. You can only raise it 5%.
Aren't they doing
a year. In
California
annual.
Yeah, they do that in California now.
In California.
Okay, we want to use them as a model for anything?
Well, that's the
We're
thing.
Republicans.
You're having but we're not promoting that. We're saying that the government should not be interfering in either side of the manipulation when it comes to affordable housing. Yeah. You doubling the impact fees is a ridiculous amount of money that's being pulled, and that's going to be increasing the cost of living in the city.
Can y'all explain what impact fees are, by the way? I don't know, and I'm sure a lot of people watching don't know.
Impact fees are just fees that can be assessed or implemented by your local government.
It's essentially a tax on builders and developers to cover the cost of the infrastructure that has to come along with that development. So as you build a neighborhood, as you build an office complex, as you build
all the roads that have to be paved.
Right, exactly. Expansion of the roads, sewer lines, electric lines, all that kind of stuff. It goes to pay for all that stuff. So again, they're double dipping, triple dipping in some cases.
That makes sense. I can't believe it.
Well, but we already pay taxes for that stuff, and this is basically like another tax to pay for more of that stuff.
And the developers
it's a sneaky way of not of raising your taxes
without
raising your taxes.
The developers are not the ones that are actually paying this. It's the consumers that are purchasing the houses that are going to be doing that. And again, I'm very surprised it passed unanimously. I'm very surprised. 6-0 with Stacey White being the only one that abstained from the vote. I'm very surprised with a lot of that they made such a quick decision without doing the full research of what needed to happen. And doubling something like that, again, affects a lot of new families, affects a lot of young people, affects a lot of individuals buying their first home. And that's something
double
that happened.
is twice as much.
Okay, and we lost him.
So here's my question. Let's get to the root cause. Why are we here? If we have so many people moving into Hillsborough County that would, would say increase tax, and then we're able to, fund the basic necessities that it needs as far as schools and roads. I mean, this South Hillsborough County, for example, this impact fee is for to more schools out in that area. But as Jonathan was referring to, the infrastructure out there needs a huge overall. I mean, have you ever tried to get on 75 in the morning from
Yes. No, because I live in civilization.
But Chris, we're already paying for those things. We pay property taxes, and then again, there are already impact fees that were put into place for the infrastructure.
So that's why I say the root cause. Why are we here? Why is this?
Well, again,
because the money that was generated by the current impact fees amount, and again, I think 4,000 is a lot, but I don't think it should have been doubled. I think it should have been increased to keep up with inflation and do everything else. But I don't see the. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because yes, we're going through a boom. Children, there's some schools, some parts of the county. We're the 7th largest school district in the country. We are such a large. We are the 7th largest in the country.
Hillsborough is?
Yes.
My goodness, I had no idea.
But that's the thing. The last time this happened, you were having double sessions at Sickles and at Chamberlain and at Gaither. And it was causing such a big problem because of those parts. And now I think that's going to start happening maybe in the next year or two, unless they get these high schools and middle schools back online. But I think an assessment of the resources that we have now in the city when it comes to schools that are not at full capacity, districts that are not being utilized correctly, and schools
and that's my main that's my main point. That's my main point is that there's already a mismanagement. The school district has a very bad history of mismanagement of funds, and honestly, I'm surprised with the people that are on the school board because we know some of them, and also the people in these associations that signed off on this impact fee thing that it went through. I mean, it's ridiculous after the fact that they just basically gave him a slush fund of millions of dollars last year with a half a cent tax.
Well, I think I have the solution. Stop having kids.
Oh my gosh!
No more kids. No more schools. Oh
my God. And then you destroy the U.S. economy if we're not increasing the consumerism.
Have kids. Have your babies.
All right.
With that,
yeah.
So, then, Johnny, you want to wrap this up?
Well, yeah. So Anibal and I, along with Parker, who hasn't been on the show in a while, but she'll come back soon. We had the opportunity, the honor, the thrilling opportunity to welcome President Trump to his home state of Florida this morning in Sanford, Orlando, which for those of you who have no clue where Sanford is, that would be just north of Orlando. And of course, he was originally coming to speak, ironically, to a health conference, which got canceled. And so then his arrival got moved from Orlando International Airport, thankfully, to Sanford International Airport.
No, but for real, Orlando's a horrible airport.
Yeah, and so Anibal and I, we got the opportunity to hang out for a little bit there in the airport while we waited for Air Force One. Caught us off guard, right?
Completely.
And it was really cool to watch Air Force One just kind of swoop in, and just the presence, the majesty that that airplane has, and then also to see all the logistics that come with it. I mean, we're talking about when the news coverage does its thing. I mean, you typically see maybe a handful of people, if you count the Secret Service agents that are typically surrounding the president. But I would say there was probably like 50 to 100 people that all got off of that plane.
Oh, there was 5 or 6 shuttles full of people that got off that plane.
Yeah.
And I agree the logistics of how that worked, making sure that identification we're multiple checkpoints before we even got to the facility. There are multiple police officers, and thank you for your service when it came to that. There are people on the roof, snipers. It's a whole to do.
I'm guessing fighter jets too, right? When the plane was flying in.
No,
I'm sure they're probably not far away.
Somewhere, yeah. But Johnny and I were having a conversation about how will that plane because it's a huge plane, will land in and it's more like an executive. It's not an international airport. It's more of an executive kind of airport. It's pretty decent. But as we're having that conversation, it straight up lands right in front of us. We're like, okay, it can do it. It works.
Do it. And they paid enough for it.
I know. Oh my God, who paid so much money for that?
I mean, I think they hit the brakes pretty hard because it is a short runway. I mean,
Trump did get the cost down to like half.
Yeah, because you have to negotiate for everything. You have to do that.
Obama's going to pay twice as much. You got it down to like half.
So just seeing the plane come like taxi in front of us is really cool. A lot of other Trump supporters are there watching and waiting for the president. Flags. It's super patriotic. People are crying in the background, and it kind of got a little ridiculous. Yeah, I know. It got a little ridiculous. But then the moment where the president is walking down the stairs, and there's the motorcade in front of us, and you're expecting him to go into the motorcade because they say he might come to you, he might shake your hand.
It's totally up to him.
It's totally up to him. Yeah. If you're louder and he'll do it if you prompt him to. And you see the what is it called, the limousine? It's called like the Beast, right?
The Beast,
yeah.
Those doors are huge. Oh
yeah.
And I'm
they're about 6 to 9 inches thick.
The first thing I think of when I see it, I'm like, if your finger is caught in there, you're losing the finger. That thing is not.
I'm pretty sure you're losing your whole hand at that point.
And so it was interesting. And then he came down and walked to the crowd. He started shaking people's hands. And I got a high five. One of our other people that were there.
Are you gonna wash your hand?
Oh yeah, I washed it in a heartbeat.
Screw coronavirus. I'm never washing this hand again.
And so it was the cheesiest thing. And so Parker got called out, and it was a great event. Really happy. Like, we all became like first freshmen. Like, we were just so excited to see the president.
What I thought was funny though is because Governor DeSantis was there to receive him as well, and we got to actually take a quick picture with the governor before the president arrived. And I don't know if you caught this, Anibal, but when we kind of went up to him and stuck out our hand to say hi, like, you kind of almost didn't want to do the handshake, because again, the last thing obviously the governor needs is to get sick from coronavirus.
Exactly.
While being the de facto.
Well, if he does, we know whose fault it is.
But the governor was there too, and he was gracious enough to take lots of pictures and hang out for a bit while we all waited for the president.
Yeah,
and
I think we were the first ones to realize that the governor was just chilling there on the sideline. And I was like, oh, the governor, let's go say hi.
Heck yeah.
And of course, I have my sunglasses while I'm taking a picture with the governor. I apologize. It was very rude of me.
Cheesy.
I know.
I'm sure he hates you now.
Dollar.
I know. I'm the biggest Hispanic guy.
Wedding.
Disgrace.
Throwaway sunglasses.
They were not throwaway sunglasses, Jonathan.
Oh my god!
If anything, we'll give the governor the glasses next time because he's squinting.
Never be allowed in that space again.
Honestly, I'm gonna have to change my name. They won't let a big Hispanic guy do that again.
Were they Ray-Bans?
They were not. No, they were like dollar shades.
That's what I just said.
No one's listening to you, Johnny.
Oh my gosh. Well, and the point being, again, which we usually stress at this point in the show, is that the way that this happens is, by getting involved. These opportunities have come along because of the relationships we've made and the people that we've met along the time that we've been involved in the political process. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It's an incredible way to be involved in the community and give back to the community. But also it opens up opportunities like this where, I met, then Governor Mike Pence, back in 2010 at CPAC. Now he's the vice president, and I have pictures of that. And then you have, of course, President Trump, who, I got to see, just before he announced his candidacy down in Sarasota. Mm-hmm. And now you meet him as the president. And through the relationships and the people that you meet that are involved in the process is how you get access to some of these things. And I mentioned that because some people asked, it's like, oh, well, how do you get to meet the president at the airport when he arrives? And how do you get to go to some of these fundraisers and fancy dinners? And that's how. trust me. I mean, we can't afford half of this stuff that we go to, but
that is for sure.
But we get invited to it because we're a part of the process, and we've given a lot of our time and effort and skill sets to helping candidates get in office, and so we can't stress you enough, especially as we're in full-blown campaign season, especially with the smaller local campaigns. Get involved. Help them out, help them get into office, and trust me, you'll get more opportunities than you could have ever imagined.
I think a lot of people forget that you have to get involved, you have to put in the time, and the more time you put in, the more benefits you really do feel from being invited to the dinners, being invited to the grand openings, being invited to the offices that are and the inaugurations. I remember getting invited to Jeb Bush's first inauguration when I was in high school, and that was because I put time in during his election process, and that was a great honor to be brought into that kind of event and be able to see the swearing-in ceremony and going to all the big galas and everything else. And how do you get on that list is showing up and being a part of the campaigns. And again, no matter how much you donate to the campaigns, the governor will still remember you for working in his office. The senators will still remember you volunteering. A lot of people still remember that. And I still remember the first time I met Marco Rubio, and he was just chilling with a bunch of YRs at an event. And that's how you get those connections. That's how you get connected with that group of politicians. It's a lot of fun. And Johnny knows this. Like every time we go to Tallahassee and we go into the Capitol building, we know so many people in that building because we see the LAs. They're our age, and they're doing the same. They're doing what we need them to do is to fight for the rights of young Republicans and for the Republican Party.
All right. Thank you again, Chris Chambers, our special guest today. We really appreciate you being on the show. We hope you had a good time.
It wasn't that bad, right?
It wasn't that bad. I mean, I had to keep looking over my shoulder with the president back there. But no, thank you for having me, and it was an honor. Maybe you'll bring me back.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you back. And then, Joe Simon, any closing announcements?
Did you already announce the next TBYR meeting?
No, go for it.
Okay, so March 30th is our next meeting. It will be at the Barrymore Hotel, as usual. Our theme will be celebrating International Women's Day, and that starts at 6:30 p.m. We've actually got Anna Paulina Luna coming.
Congressional candidate.
Yep. She's pretty popular right now.
Very popular conservative activist.
And then we have a few other people. Jody, she'll be on the panel. She's part of our TV Wire family. And then two other prominent females as well who are all conservatives. So it'll be really interesting. We'll have cocktails and some good conversation.
All right, I'm in.
Yeah, we're pretty excited for that. I think it's great for us to be able to really showcase the women in the conservative movement and what they do for us as a movement and how they keep us all stable and on time.
Speaking of on time, we're actually way past our time. Anibal, any closing announcements to close out the show?
So if you haven't known, YRNF is in 2 weeks, 2 weekends from now.
If it doesn't get canceled by the coronavirus.
Yes, if it doesn't get canceled by the coronavirus. We'll be in D.C. Doing tours, trainings for the 2020 election. We're really excited for that. For those that do not know about that or want to see if they want to come and be a part of the National Federation of Young Republicans in that event, it is this month, the 21st, starting on the 21st all the way through like the 23rd, 24th. We'll be visiting the White House. We'll be touring the Capitol. We'll be having meetings with congressional staff and with other leaders. And I think there's even a kickball tournament, which I will be watching from the bleachers.
All right. And, well, if all goes well, then I'll be up there as well. And we might even be doing a special edition of the show from Washington, D.C. and the Young Republican National Federation. But as always, thank you so much for watching The Yard Sign live on Facebook and YouTube every Monday night, 7 o'clock. Please, again, subscribe, like, follow, share, comment, and overall show some love in the ratings, especially on our audio podcast, which you can now find on Google, Apple, Spotify. We appreciate you so much for watching, listening to the show. On that note, I will leave you with our MAGA moment of the day, which was the same one as last week because I loved it so much, and the inspiration behind today's wallpaper. It's President Trump speaking at CPAC about Mini Mike. On that note, good night, everybody.
She was really mean to Mini Mike. I'll tell you, the way she treated her. He didn't know what hit him. He's going, oh, get me off of this stage. Get me